You just don't know when to quit.
Yeah, I've been told that before.
Wow. Are you guys seeing this? I need a weapon.
Hello there.
You with you?
I thought yours was good.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Slav's Free blah blah blah. Slav's Free Talk Podcast. I am your host, Slav, and we've got a show for you today. We're going to talk Star Wars. We're going to talk Marvel. We're going to talk DC, but most of all, and most importantly, I should say, we're going to talk about this Netflix stuff. Are they a serious contender for bidding on Warner Brothers Discovery? What's going on, everyone? Glad you can make it here today. And yeah, this weekend was a crazy weekend for me. I was busy. Halloween, man, this Halloween weekend was a crazy weekend. I hope you all enjoyed your Halloween weekend. Whether you are someone who goes and trick-or-treats or passes out candy or goes to Halloween parties or does whatever you do to celebrate the spooky season. Hopefully you had some fun this past weekend. I, on the other hand, had some fun with my children. So that was a very adventurous weekend for myself and very busy. And to add to it, it was fall back. It was going back to standard time, and I was like, man, I'm going to gain an hour of sleep, but it doesn't feel like I did at all. It does not one bit, but that's okay. Everyone, welcome to tonight's show. Who do we got in here? Earlier at 4 p.m. Art the Clown stopped in. That's kind of creepy. He says doubtful in regards to the title of the episode. Is Netflix serious about the WBD bid? I do want to mention there will be a special members only show after this one tonight. Might be 15, 20 minutes long, but there will be a members only show. So if you are a member, you can jump on that. If you're not, hey, it's just a couple bucks. You can become a member. You can jump on over, be part of that. I cannot talk today. Be part of that discussion and enjoy the fun over there. It's going to be a fun episode. I can tell you that. If you're somebody who likes my rants, if you like my calling out of others, it will be an episode that you don't want to miss. And with that said, Orkay, how do you say that? Orkay Okoloko has become a member. So thank you. Thank you so much for becoming a member. Very much appreciated. Thank you very much. Let's see. Donovan says, not to get too political, but did you recently see that David Cornswet signed a petition that the actors on it will not work with any film institutions that support Israel? I did not see that. Did not see that. He says the reason why I bring that up is the force play is in the first place, because I remember that Warner Brothers is one of the few studios that won't be boycotting any Israel film inquisition, citing their discrimination policy. Donovan says, personally, I don't mind when actors sign petitions like this, mainly a symbolic gesture more than anything, but I kind of think it's hypocritical to do a movie for a studio that won't be boycotting said places that you signed a petition against that very thing. Just saying, wonder if this very act will have anything bad working with Warner Brothers in the future other than DC Studios. Also, like any reasonable person, we all should be against genocide in the first place anywhere. Yeah, I'm not going to get political here, specifically talking about the Israel and everything going on in the Middle East, Palestine and Hamas stuff. But I did not see that. And honestly, I think when it comes down to it, I think this is my stance when it comes to actors and the way they handle these things. They need to keep it to themselves. I know people have this feeling like, hey, they have a platform, they should utilize it. Yes, to a degree, I guess, but it puts studios, it puts their employers in a difficult situation that they should not have to be put in. And look, if you become a big actor and you want to be an activist, go be an activist. But don't expect that your studios are going to then give you jobs. It's that simple. And that's my opinion on it. And that's where I'm going to leave it. So, Trayvon's here, says, take Hollywood home. Here I am. Critic Chris is here, says, hey, everyone. Doomsday says this will be the end of all Warner Brother HBO IPs. Critic Chris says, what a weekend. Saw both Back to the Future and the original Halloween in theaters. That's pretty awesome. I wish I could have gone to see those in theaters. I did go to the theater, but I did not see either one of those. Critic Chris says, if Warner Brothers sells to Netflix, that would be another mistake they make, giving in to spoiled, self-entitled haters. Well, we'll get into that later, but not necessarily that. That would not be the reason for it. Let's see. Jalen's here, says, hello. Welcome to November, Trayvon says. Hunter Iggy says, I send you a video clip of War Stew. Oh, I did not see that, but maybe I'll look at it a little bit. Bass Reeve says, person who said doubtful was scared, said scared gun will be fired. Bass Reeve says, sells ESJL to Netflix. Jeez. Kevin Davis, Dave Ellis and Skydance likely going to buy Warner Brothers. I would be shocked if Netflix acquired Warner Brothers. They're going to focus on streaming less than theatrical. And Trayvon says, who? Wars do? Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's get into the first topic of the day, which is going to be K-pop Demon Hunters. That is the movie I went and saw this weekend in theaters, believe it or not. Look, this was a weekend full of time with my children. The first day, which was, Friday, which was trick-or-treating with all the kids. And Saturday, we went to an amusement park for Fright Fest at Kennywood Amusement Park near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And then we went to the theater, and that was with the older kids. And then on Sunday, we took the younger kids to go see K-pop Demon Hunters because they are absolutely obsessed with this movie. And look, it was the sing-along. It was the big thing to do. They haven't seen it on the big screen, and we decided to take them. And yeah, I mean, look, I've seen it a handful of times at home. It was a lot of fun on the big screen. I'm going to give you that. Like, it was a lot of fun. And for me, because of how much I think this movie is, it's one of those types of films that should get recognition. It should get the love and attention that it deserves because of it having a good message for kids. It is a fun time. It has great music. It's very well done in so many ways. It's one of those films that, yes, it should get its flowers. It should get its money. It should definitely get pushed to heights to, like, hey, now that it's had its theatrical run a couple times, can this now be up for Best Animated Movie? I think it can be now. I'm pretty sure it can be up for your consideration for Best Animated Movie of the Year. Can it, Best Music and all that kind of stuff. Like, it can be one of these massive hits and surprise hits of the year because of this. And I think it deserves all of that. Now, the question is, money-wise, how did it do? Now, we know in the first weekend when it came out, which it came out for 3 days back in, September? Was it early September or was it August? Came out for 3 days and it made $18 million in its opening weekend, which was not bad. Very, very respectable for for that time. Like, hey, great. But they only left it in theaters for 3 days and then they pulled it out. Then they re-released it again this past weekend, and it made significantly less than at $18 million, this time only making $5.3 million, taking it up to $24.3 million worldwide. Well, that's domestic. I'm sorry, not worldwide. Domestically, it did actually open in Korea this week as well, but we don't have the numbers for that. So, we'll see what it does over there. It's going to be interesting to see what the total will be. But people got to remember that this movie, Sony made this film. They decided to sell it to Netflix to put solely on Netflix. They had no intention, zero intention of putting it out theatrically. But it became such a massive hit that they decided, hey, we're going to put it in theaters as a sing-along, not even as a regular movie, as a sing-along. And they did it for 3 days. And they were like, okay, it's still a big hit. People are still loving it. The songs are top of the charts still. I mean, honestly, the songs are still, I think, in the top 15 or top 20, maybe even top 10 for some of the songs. Like, they are still massive songs still after coming out in June. So they're like, okay, let's try it again. Let's put it in for another 3 days. And it kind of dropped significantly. If you ask me, their mistake was only doing a limited release that first time. Now, that was Netflix's fault, because at that point, they're the ones that not own the IP, but they're the ones that control the IP and distribution. So they're the ones that had that choice, had the decision, like, we can distribute this, we can put this in theaters, but we're just going to do it for 3 days. Well, that was a terrible idea. This movie could have made, I think, if they would have left it in theaters, that weekend they released it and said, you know what, we're going to have it in theaters for 3 or 4 weeks or 2 months. It probably would have made $100 million, $150 million, maybe even $200 million if they would have kept it in during that whole stretch there. But because they put it in that weekend, people were excited. They went and saw it. They loved it. And then they pulled it out. And then people just went back to their regular day. My kids still watch it on Netflix on a daily basis, essentially. But most people are now kind of like over it. Sure, the music's still big, but people aren't, they're not, chomping at the bit to watch it like they were. So I got to say, I think Netflix, and we're going to get into this later on, Netflix does not understand what they have when they have it. This is a movie where they could have made a nice chunk of money had they handled it properly. And don't get me wrong, look, the kids that were at that theater the other day, they had a blast. There were kids down on the floor dancing to the music, having a grand old time. It was great to see, because that is what going to the theater, going to the movies is about, is having a great time, having fun. And I'm not saying every movie should be where kids and people are singing along and dancing, and that's not every movie. But that is the experience. That is the type of feeling you should have at movies nowadays. Going to the theater is just having a good time, getting pulled into the movie, the movie experience. And Netflix has a movie that can do that for the movie theaters. And they dropped the ball by doing this thing where they release it in theaters for 3 days one time, and then for 3 days another time. And I just think that was a bad move on their part, a very, very bad move on their part. But look, if you got a chance to see it in theaters, whether it was this time around or the first time, let me know what you guys think. Because again, I think this is definitely a way forward for studios to start looking at. I think it is. I think it's a way of saying, look, let's release a movie on digital, on streaming, not digital, but on streaming, and use this as a marketing tool. Let's get some people to enjoy it and then release it theatrically. I'm not saying the big budget movies, but some of these smaller budget movies, some of these ones that could be, cult classics or pop culture hits, that might be the way to go. But let me know your thoughts about all this in the comments below. Let's see. What are you saying over here? I saw somebody say, where's it at here? Where did it go? There we go. Trayvon says, just 24 million people were acting like Sony did away with a potential billionaire. Yeah, this was never going to be, this was never a $1 billion movie. But again, it could have made a couple $100 million releasing it the way they did. Releasing on Netflix, them seeing, holy crap, this is a massive hit. Let's get it in the theaters, keep it in theaters for a month or two. They could have made 100 to 200 million easily. Just not the way that they did it. Let's see. Kevin Davis, Netflix released K-pop Demon Hunters too early. This going to play similar to Mitchell vs. the Machines. Still got Oscar nomination and lost Best Animated Feature category. I don't think they released it too early, because what else came out after it? What came out after? Because it released in June, but let's face it. From June to November, K-pop Demon Hunters has been the talk of the town. So anything that's come out since then, no one's really talked about. We got Zootopia coming out in a couple weeks. That's kind of the last animated movie coming out this year. What else did we have? We had animated wise. Was Moana 2 this year? Was that this year? Or was that last year? I don't even remember now. So honestly, when I'm sitting here thinking about it, the only animated movie that I can remember or think about that was a massive hit that people loved was K-pop Demon Hunters. I think that one has the best chance if it's capable, if it's able to be, because I don't know if it hit the right amount of theaters, if it had enough time, all that, because, it has to hit certain parameters to be in so many theaters for so long in certain cities, all that kind of thing. If it hit all that, the right parameters, I don't see how it cannot win. That's just my thought, or opinion, I should say. Donovan says, I hate that. I think movies need to be theatrical first. If it goes streaming first, then theatrical will not have a long shelf life. Donovan, the thing is theatrical's not getting a long shelf life right now. Most movies are in theaters 45 days before they're hitting digital. Before they're not streaming, but before they're hitting digital. And again, I'm not saying all movies. I'm not saying the big movies. I'm not saying your Avengers, your Supermans, your Jurassic Worlds. I'm not saying those. But things like your K-pop Demon Hunters, or your smaller, $50 million budgets, or smaller even, those types of films, yeah, I could see a world where they say, you know what? Let's throw it up on our streaming service. Oh, look, it's got a nice bump. It got a good bump. Here's a good movie that they could have done this with, and they probably should have, is Five Nights at Freddy's. Now, originally it was going to be theatrical, but they decided to do, I think they did day and date, if I'm not mistaken, with Paramount, or was it not Paramount? Peacock. Did they do day and date, or did it just go on Peacock? I can't remember. But what they should have done was they should have just put it on Peacock, and it should have been a limited thing on Peacock for 2 weeks. It's on Peacock 2 weeks. Watch it, use it as a marketing tool, get people talking about it, and then release it in theaters. It's just a thought, because it's a lower budget horror film. You have a following, but get people talking about, get people excited about it, because honestly, that movie was, I think, a lot better than what some people thought it was going to be. It's not a great movie, but it did a lot better than what I think a lot of people thought it was going to do. And I think it was day and date. So even with it doing day and date, it still made a decent chunk of money in the theaters. It probably could have made a bit more had they done it that way. It's released on Peacock for just a little bit, and then it's in theaters, and it probably could have made more. Just my thought. Trayvon says, hot take, Hollywood was hurt big time by the installment of the now defunct Paramount decrees, in which by law all movie studios were forbidden from owning their own movie theaters. I agree to a point, yes. All right, let's move on. Okay, so this one, I know you're in here, Donovan, and I know you're going to get mad at me for this, but I saw it pop up right before the show, and I felt like I wanted to talk about it. So bear with me here. Bear with me. This is a little pop culture-ish, but not really. I know it's not movie related. But look, this is every year. Coca-Cola likes to do a little advertisement type of thing. And last year they decided to do one that was AI generated. This year they decided to do another one. And obviously everybody is, well, mixed on it. They're mixed on it. Okay. I have two things to say about this. And I get it. Like people, I get the anger that people have about AI generating. Like this is ridiculous, generative AI is not art or what have you. Like I get that people think that. But think of how all industries adapt over time. They all adapt in some way over time. I've mentioned this before. Think of, I'm going to use Lucasfilm and Industrial Light and Magic for one. You go from using puppeteers to using computer generated graphics, which that is essentially what you're doing there is removing jobs, which I know is one thing that people are afraid of. So you're taking away the ability of people, of puppeteers, and moving it on to computer generation. Industries adapt, new technologies come out. Now, do I want to sit here and say that I think everything should move to AI? No. But what I'm looking at here, specifically with this ad, because when I look at this ad, it's not great. Like you can obviously tell it's AI. Like it is not very good AI. And not AI is all good. Like some AI looks better than others, some does not. But what I think is interesting with what Coca-Cola did here is they're showing like, look, this is what we're capable of doing with AI. This is something different. This is something that, look, we're not utilizing real life actors and taking their likeness and making a commercial out of it. This is our aesthetic that we created decades ago. This is ours. This is our aesthetic. This is what we've created. We're allowed to play in this world. We're allowed to create within this world as we please because we are the ones that created this. So messing around in AI with this, hey, that's for us to do. This is ours. So what they do here is they play with that world. They play in this world, in this little sandbox that they created with AI. And I think that's okay. Because it's showing us the limitations, current limitations of AI, which we know. Look, people are against it. I get it. People are against AI. But it's not going anywhere. No matter what you say. The amount of tech podcasts that I listen to, look, and I listen to some smart people about this stuff. It's not going anywhere. And I'm not sitting here saying get on the train or get left behind. Look, if you don't like it, you don't like it. But the thing is there has to be a middle ground. And everybody knows that there's going to be a middle ground at some point. There's going to be. People understand that there was, like at this point, like we all understand that there's this fine line between taking a likeness or taking somebody's art and doing this and doing that and utilizing it in artificial intelligence and generative AI. That's bad. That's not good. People want that to go away. We get that. And so do the people that are creating these engines. But on the other hand, it's all this other stuff that AI can do and is doing and will do in the future that is going to benefit so much more than the negative that's going on now. However, then you look at Skynet and Terminator and the Matrix and things, and then you get a little scared about things. But that's besides the point. But honestly, I think like I sit here and I take a look at this and I'm like, this Coca-Cola thing, I'm like, okay, I get what they're going for. I get people are going to be a little upset about it, but I don't understand because this is their sandbox. This is theirs. Like, this is theirs to play in. That's just what I think. That's really what I think. I don't think that when it comes to AI, they're not stealing anybody's likeness. They're not stealing anybody's art. This is their stuff. They own everything that is in this thing. It's theirs. It's that simple. But I don't know. I know people have some very opinionated thoughts on this, but let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And I'm not going to go into the comments about this because I can already see they're blowing up here. So I'm just going to move to the next topic. But I do see Ben is in here. So, hey, Ben, what's going on? So thanks for stopping by. Okay. Anyways. All right. Next topic. So does everybody remember that Patty Jenkins movie, Star Wars movie? I'm sorry, that Patty Jenkins Star Wars movie we're supposed to get. Do you guys remember that? Yeah, that was a thing that was supposed to come, but, well, never happened. Surprise! Another failed project that never came to fruition from Lucasfilm and Star Wars. Oh, my goodness. Well, rumor has it that that Rogue Squadron movie is being turned into a Disney Plus series. Now, I'm taking this from The Direct, and now this is according to a report from My Time to Shine. They shared some information about, I know it's My Time to Shine, but just bear with me here. They're sharing some information that Patty Jenkins' Rogue Squadron film, which is a long in development Star Wars movie, is back on the table and is being repackaged as a big budget streaming series. However, no further information was given, including when fans may actually see the project. First announced at Disney's Investors Day in 2020, 5 years ago. Man, this is like Blade level bad. Rogue Squadron has seen its fair share of bumps in the road over the last half decade and change. The film, which was set to be helmed by Wonder Woman director Patty Jenkins, faced several delays, pushing production from its reported 2021 start date before being taken off the Star Wars slate entirely. Since then, there have been whispers of the film every few months after Jenkins was taken off of the potential Wonder Woman 3 at DC. Thanks to the relaunch of the superpowered franchise under James Gunn and Peter Safran, some have wondered if that meant the movie might finally happen. In September, it was then reported that the movie had been freed from its carbonite prison and was back on the table at Lucasfilm. This latest update could be connected to the September report, with the Star Wars Brain Trust reviving Star Wars Rogue Squadron not as a film, but rather as an episodic streaming show. Rogue Squadron was described as a spacefaring epic following the next generation of starfighters as they get their wings. Described as Top Gun in space, the Patty Jenkins directed blockbuster, which was once slated for 2023, never made it out of the hangar, and joins several Star Wars projects left in stasis. Okay. I think this is a terrible idea. Look, my love for Star Wars is not unknown. I let it known. I love Star Wars, but I have not loved the stuff that Star Wars has come out with over the last number of years. Yes, I've liked The Mandalorian. Yes, I liked Ahsoka. That's about it. Mostly everything else that has come out has been, well, bullshit. This is not a good idea. I've been saying they need to get back to movies. Star Wars is movies. Look, the TV shows are nice little filler from here, here and there. It absolutely is. I enjoy a good Star Wars TV show every now and then. But they need to reestablish Star Wars first. They need to reestablish what Star Wars is first. To me, Star Wars has always been Skywalkers. Skywalkers is Star Wars. Star Wars is Skywalkers. Plain and simple. As long as you remember that, as long as you keep that basis, you can play her in the sandbox wherever and however you want, as long as you continue building off of what the core of Star Wars is. Star Wars is Skywalker, Skywalker is Star Wars. It's that simple. However, Kathy Kennedy, Lucasfilm decided to get away from that idea, away from that concept with The Rise of Skywalker. So they get away from that concept, away from that idea, and now they're just floundering. Now they have no idea what they're doing. So I think they need to put a stamp on what Star Wars is. Remind people what Star Wars is before they start going around and playing in different sandboxes. I get the Mandalorian stuff is going on. It's been successful. I get it. They have a plan for that stuff. That's why I think Starfighter is a bad idea. I don't think it's going to be good. I'm hopeful. I'm not going to say excited. I'm hopeful for it. But I have a bad feeling about it. They need to establish the basis, the foundation of what Star Wars is before they start doing all these little side projects. And they haven't done it yet. They haven't. Then maybe once they do that, maybe it'll work as a streaming show. Maybe it's better as a movie. Who knows? But right now, they don't even have a basis of what Star Wars is. They're just throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. And that's a problem. That's a problem. To me, get back to the Skywalkers. Look, that Ben Solo movie was a great idea. That's a great idea. Look, I love doing fanfic. I talked about this not too long ago. I love, every once in a while I'll sit down and I'll just type up some fan fiction ideas. And I had this fanfic for the Rey movie, literally what the Rey movie would be. And it is built off of the legacy of Ben Solo. It really is. And that he had an apprentice, and it's built off his legacy and things like that. If you do something in that way, you can build off the legacy of the Skywalkers and keeping the Skywalkers as the foundation. And in a way, it could still work. But who knows? Who knows if they'll ever do anything smart like that ever again? If they can ever do anything smart. Who knows? But let me know your thoughts in the comments below about this. Do you think Rogue Squadron is a good idea for a TV show? Or do you think it should be a movie? Let me know in the comments below. Movie Talk Now says, Star Wars is dead as the DCEU. Is the DCEU dead, though? I don't know. I hear people on Twitter all the time say it's coming back. Oh yeah, I forgot about Skeleton Crew. I did actually enjoy Skeleton Crew. It wasn't it wasn't amazing, but I enjoyed Skeleton Crew. I did. Donovan, Star Wars needs to move away from the Skywalker sandbox, but yeah, I don't know what you're saying. No, it does not need to move away from the Skywalker. Star Wars is Skywalker. Skywalker is Star Wars. Look, you have to have that foundation. And then you can play over here, away from the Skywalkers, absolutely. But you always have to have your shining star, your shining light to come back to. Rey failed. Look, let's explain it this way. Star Wars is struggling right now. Star Wars cannot succeed without having Skywalkers. Plain and simple. They cannot get a Rey movie going. They're trying to do a new Rey trilogy. They ended the Skywalker saga. They don't have a Luke. They don't have an heir, a true heir to Luke or Leia or Han, which would technically be kind of a Skywalker. That's what they needed to do in that original trilogy, is create the Skywalker line to move forward. While some people will sit there and say, well, Rey took the surname of Skywalker, so no, people don't accept it. People think it's stupid. It failed. It fell on its face. Nobody wants Rey, which is why they cannot get a movie up and running with Rey in it. And when they do, it's going to fail as well because nobody wants it. They completely failed. They have to keep the foundation of Skywalker. And here's the thing, like I said, you have a foundation of Skywalker. You have a saga of Skywalker stories going, but then you can play in the Old Republic. You can play in the way distant future. You can play way over here somewhere else, way over here somewhere else that has no connection to Skywalkers. But when those fail, you can always come back to the main saga of Skywalker because that is what Star Wars is. That is your bread and butter. That is where you always go back to. They just lost sight of that, and they don't get it. Let's see. Rewind. He says, I agree with Movie Talk about what? This one here? Netflix is buying a company billions in debts to tell the final story of a day. Ah, boy. Donovan says, I think Star Wars needs to go away for 5 to 10 years, clean house internally, come back with a well-executed and well-written Old Republic trilogy that will get them back in good graces with fans. Will it, though? Like that, think about this. With the exception of TV shows, we have not, by the time The Mandalorian and Grogu comes out, we will not have had a movie for 7 years. Star Wars will have been gone from the main public eyes for 7 years. And Old Republic, I won't bring people back. It's not going to. You say, because the longest time everywhere I go, people clamoring for Republic period in Star Wars. They want the Old Republic that's in their head. I do. I want what I know from the Old Republic. I want what I know from the books that I've read, the games that I played. You think Disney Lucasfilm is going to give that to us? No. No, they're not. They're not. All right. Let's move on to the next topic. Marvel time. So there was a big rumor that came around. This could be a little spoilerish. So if you don't want to know what's going to potentially be in the teaser for Avengers Doomsday, close your eyes, guard your ears, hide away. All right. So you can check this out over at slavsfreetalk.com. It is up and over there now. You can go read it right now. Rumor, Dr. Doom's MCU debut channels classic Universal monsters in Avengers Doomsday. So it sounds like Marvel's next big bad might be less tech god and more of a tragic monster. Excuse me. According to Film Threat's Chris Gore, he says he heard from someone at Marvel who's seen a rough cut of the Doomsday trailer or teaser and says that Robert Downey Jr.'s Dr. Doom will channel the eerie, tormented energy of the Universal monsters. Think of Phantom of the Opera meets Darth Vader, a broken man in a suit that keeps him alive rather than enhances his powers. Chris Gore's source apparently describes Downey's Doom as a tragic figure and broken figure, evoking Lon Chaney Sr.'s version of the Phantom, the disfigured genius hiding behind a mask and a mind sharper than his scars. Doom's armor reportedly exists not for style points, but to keep his shattered body functioning. Gore's co-host even drew a comparison to Vader's life-sustaining armor, and Gore agreed. Unlike Tony Stark's flashy Iron Man suit, which was built from ego and innovation, Doom's is born of pain and necessity. It's poetic, really. The same actor who once played Marvel's symbol of progress and hope could soon embody its most haunting reflection. The first Avengers Doomsday teaser is rumored to premiere alongside Avatar: Fire and Ash on December 19th of this year, which is almost exactly 1 year before Avenger Doomsday hits theaters. The footage isn't groundbreaking yet, Gore warns, and it isn't even finished, but his source was surprised by the amounts of Doom footage. That makes sense. Doom is the story this time. Just as Ultron and Thanos dominated the early marketing for their Avengers entries, Downey's Doom will take center stage here. Partly because he's new, but mostly because Marvel has got to sell audiences on the idea that Iron Man himself has turned into the monster under the mask. Sticking to Gore's report, Marvel isn't abandoning the comics. Doom's mastery of both sorcery and science will be on full display, blending mysticism with intellect, a dangerous mix that's pure Victor Von Doom. Gore predicts fans will be excited once... where did I go? I just lost it. Once they see how comic accurate this portrayal seems to be. He also noted that the movie will likely undergo plenty of reshoots, claiming Marvel will be working on it right up to the end. For a project this massive and this risky, that's not a shocker. Marvel attaching the trailer to Avatar isn't random either. Both Avatar films broke $2 billion, guaranteeing eyeballs from audiences who might have turned out of the MCU. It's a smart play and a way to make sure the biggest possible crowd sees the studio's reinvention pitch. So after years of fatigue and falling interest, Marvel clearly knows Avengers Doomsday can't just be another crossover event. It has to feel like a resurrection. And what better way to resurrect the MCU than with a villain modeled after the monsters who've terrified and fascinated audiences for a century. If this rumor pans out, Dr. Doom won't just be another CGI threat. He'll be Marvel's Frankenstein's monster. Brilliant, broken, and unforgettable. And maybe, just maybe, the villain who brings Marvel Studios roaring back to life. Look, I'm excited about this movie to a point. I want to see a good Marvel movie again, like a really good Marvel movie again. I still don't agree with them having RDJ as Dr. Doom, but this sounds interesting. This does sound interesting. I do think that this is a smart play for the teaser and for the marketing to focus on Doom, because he just shows up. It's like, hey, we're focusing over here, and here's Doom. Here he is. Like, okay. Personally, I think that if they go this route with the marketing, it is going to go a long way in building that hype. I do think that we're going to see a lot of former Marvel stars in the marketing. And when I say Marvel stars, I'm talking even like X-Men and things like that. So like your Patrick Stewarts and your your Marsdens and things like that of X-Men past, simply to build that excitement that this is a big crossover type of event. But I think they also have to sell, because we don't know who the Avengers are. This is Avengers, but we don't know who the Avengers are. So they also are going to have to find a way to push the Avengers. But that's not about this. What this is about is this teaser that's going to be coming in December, which we know we're going to get when it makes sense. They need to start pushing this. They got nothing besides Spider-Man between now and then. Yeah, Wonder Man comes out in January, and then Spider-Man comes out in July. But besides those two things, they got nothing, nada, until Doomsday next December. And I mean, Daredevil also. There's Daredevil as well. Don't forget Daredevil, and I guess Punisher. It's a TV show. Why? I'm not going to talk about TV, because TV shows don't matter. Movies are what matter. Like, people always sit there and talk about TV shows and everything like that. The TV shows, in the grand scheme of things, when it comes to Star Wars and Marvel, they don't really matter to the large population in the audience. They just don't. Like, people will talk about this movie more than they ever talk about Daredevil or Punisher or Wonder Man or anything like that. So that's what people are more excited about. But yeah, I think this teaser should be interesting. If Chris Gore, if his information is correct, I think it's the right move. But I'd love to hear what you have to say. Do you think this is the right move for them? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I saw this here. Movie Talk Now says, Slav, how much more do you like DC more than Marvel? A lot more. Let's put it this way. I have trouble reading Marvel comics. It's so hard for me to get into Marvel comics. I can read a Spider-Man comic. I'm fine with that. Probably because, like, when I was a kid, that's really kind of like the first comics I ever really looked at. I tell the story all the time where it was my local supermarket. They had a little spinner rack in there next to their little book section. And the first comic I ever saw was a Scarlet Spider comic book. Ben, I can't remember his name now. Ben Parker. I was just like, oh man, this is great. The outfit with the hoodie and everything. Like, it was just, to me, I was like, that is a cool looking Spider-Man. So I had to get that comic, and that was like the first comic I ever bought and read. And it was like, I don't even remember what issue it was. It was just a random issue, no idea. But I was probably like 7 years old, 6 years old, and read it. But like, to me, Spider-Man, sure, I can get into those. Some Avenger, like the bigger, I force myself to read like the bigger event comics, but like issue to issue, it's harder to read for me. DC comics, like, I'm reading the new Batman run. I've been reading the Absolute Batman. I read a lot of the Rebirth when that came out. I go back and read a lot of DC stuff, like the older DC comics. Like, for me, DC, I can just read. I can just take it all in all the time. And then when you sit there and look at the movies, I was always a DC movie fan, always. And that goes back to my childhood, sitting on my dad's lap, watching 66 Batman with Adam West, to watching 89 Batman on my mom's lap in the movie theater, to watching Batman Forever in my living room. Like, it's always been DC for me. So DC is far and away means so much more to me than Marvel does. Doesn't mean that I don't enjoy Marvel. I do enjoy Marvel movies a lot more than Marvel comics, but DC, I will always be above Marvel for me. Let's see. What else do we got here? Chris says, do you think Famke Janssen will return as Jean Grey in Secret Wars? I think she should. Will she? I don't know, but I think she should. It'd be great to see her again. I was always a big fan of Famke Janssen. I tell you what, a great movie that she's in. She has a smaller part in it. Rounders. Great movie. Go watch Rounders if you've never seen Rounders. Edward Norton, Matt Damon, Famke Janssen. Great movie. Donovan says, Chris Gore is a hack. Ben Reilly. That's right. Not Parker. Ben Reilly. Man, see, I can't even remember names from Marvel, but you knew who I meant. Thank you, Movie Talk. All right. Okay. Next topic. We're going to do some DC talk now. Maybe. Superman continues to win big, and the DCU has momentum. Oh man, people are gonna come at me for this. So Superman, this is over at slavsfreetalk.com. Go check it out now. Superman continues to soar higher than ever. It has surpassed, this was last month, surpassing Black Adam and Captain America Brave New World, Thunderbolts, and total minutes of watch. The new Man of Steel is proving that excitement for DC is stronger than it's been in years. This, according to Nielsen's September report, the same month that Superman dropped on streaming, audiences didn't just show up, they showed up big. But the momentum did not stop there. The week of October 24th, Superman jumped all the way to number 2 on the entire Nielsen streaming chart, proving this film has serious staying power. This isn't a spike, it's a climb, it's a hold, it's lasting interest. It's not just a strong performance, it's a statement. With a successful theatrical run, I legitimately cannot talk today, guys. I tell you. With a successful theatrical run, a strong home release, and now a fantastic rising streaming performance, Superman is doing exactly what it was built to do. Reignite excitement, bring new eyes into DC Universe, and lay the foundation for a bold, unified DCU. And the message is crystal clear. Fans are ready. The hype is real. And the DCU's future isn't just bright, it's shining. So this is the chart from September. And as you can see, K-pop Demon Hunters was absolutely dominating. But Superman was number 4 for September, which was fantastic. Great numbers, pulling strong. But then come the week ending of October 24th, it was number 2 in streaming. K-pop Demon Hunters was still number 1. Like I said, that movie's just taken over the world. But it became number 2. So Gunn's early streaming rollout didn't weaken Superman's momentum because people were questioning, like, why did he do that? Like, and people were questioning it. But there was a strong result with it. It was a launch pad for DCU's future and proof that the world is more than ready for its new Man of Steel. Let's face it, the last decade hasn't exactly been kind to Superman on screen. The DCEU treated him more like a myth than a man. And the character's cultural pull faded under endless reboots, Snyder Cut wars, and studio chaos. But now, David Cornsweet's Superman feels alive. His charm, optimism, and chemistry with the ensemble gave audiences something they haven't felt in years. General hope. So this is just great news. Like, again, people will try and spin that Superman just failed. But what this is showing is that it was successful in 2025. Look, I don't know how to explain it anymore to people. The comic book genre has fallen year after year after year after year. The last 3 years, the last 2-3 years, it just fell and fell and fell. The fact that Superman was able to make as much money as it did, which was far higher than what superhero films made on average the last number of years, is fantastic. The fact that it's having continued success on streaming shows that people they're watching it. They want to see what it's all about. They want to see, and it's not just like, hey, we're watching it one time and then we're putting it down and never looking at it again. No, there's continuous watching of it. There's continuous desire to see what this movie is about. That's what it is. They're seeing what this movie is about. They're seeing what this new DCU is about. Remember when people used to sit there and say, no one's going to know who this new Superman is. Everybody's going to expect to see Henry Cavill and see who they're going to expect to see Henry Cavill. Well, with as many people that are watching this movie, with as many people who went to the theater to see this movie, with as many people and as much talk as there is about this movie, I don't think people are confused about who the current Superman is anymore. Not that there was ever confusion to begin with, because Henry Cavill wasn't in the suit for a number of years, and when he did, nobody went and saw that movie anyways. So, in the grand scheme of things, the success of Superman here is just proving, like, hey, people are interested. This is a foundation. As many people explained a year and a half before this film came out, that this movie was going to set the foundation of the DCU. This wasn't going to be a movie that was going to make $1 billion. This wasn't a movie that was going to be a huge, huge financial hit. It just wasn't. We knew that it was going to have financial success, but it wasn't going to be this ginormous financial hit because of all the baggage that came with it. It had to lay the foundation for what the DCU was going to be moving forward. And it has done exactly that. From the theatrical release to the digital release, to the streaming release. It has done exactly that. And people want to sit there and try and say it hasn't, but, well, it's been on the top 5 and the top 3 and the top 1 on streaming. Well, it was number 1, top 1. It was number 1 on HBO Max for how long? It's been in the top 5 for weeks on Nielsen. Like, it's doing something right. It's getting people interested. It's getting people talking. People know what they see. Like they know now, hey, this is Superman. This is what it is. And it's only going to allow the DCU to build. And that's exactly what it was supposed to do. Just as what Man of Steel was supposed to do in 2013. It's no different. No different at all. But let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this because it is interesting. It is interesting for sure. The funny guy says, no one's confused about Superman anymore. I never hear, where's Cavill? Trayvon says, more than that, Superman portrayed a friend, someone who values life of any kind and willingly lend a helping hand, something that was sorely missed in Man of Steel. Let's see. Anything else? Nothing else. Okay. Final story. And the main topic. Netflix and Warner Brothers. Less art, more algorithm. That's right, guys. Looks like Netflix has decided to put a bid, or no, I take that back. They haven't put a bid in yet. But they're deciding, they're looking closely at possibly putting a bid in for Warner Brothers in some form or fashion. Well, that's kind of what the Snyder Bros are saying, right? Look, this is what's going on. Now, Netflix, according to reports from Reuters, whatever you call it, and Variety, Netflix has officially tapped Moelis and Company to explore a potential bid for Warner Brothers Discovery. What they do is they're a company who helps takeovers and acquisitions. They're the same company that helped Paramount or Skydance take over Paramount. And that is just kind of what happens. I mean, they're taking a look. They're being serious about it. Now, I get that the head of Netflix just about a week ago was like, nah, we're not interested. Yeah, they're not interested in Warner Brothers Discovery as a whole. They're not interested in the legacy media. They don't want the news stations. They don't want TBS, TNT, so on and so forth. They don't want that. No. They want possibly, and I say possibly with this, they possibly want Warner Brothers Pictures and the studios and HBO Max and their IPs. That's most likely what they're looking for. But, like, honestly, is that really what should happen? Because you know me. I've been very upfront about this for months at this point. I do not want to see Warner Brothers Discovery sold or taken over by anybody at all. I want them to stay their own company. I want them to continue forward. Look, I know that they want to do the split next year, and I would love for them to do their split and just continue forward by themselves. But I know it's not going to happen. I get that. But personally, to me, I think that is what's best for the industry, for Hollywood, for film, for creativity, for filmmakers, for TV showrunners, for writers, for producers, for everything. That's what's best. That's what's best. But there's some people out there who think, no, Netflix is the best move. There's no denying that Netflix has large pockets. They do. They have large pockets. But they didn't get there by making stupid acquisitions for pieces of companies that have nothing to do with them. Keep that in mind. Let's also not forget that they are a streaming first company. Does that mean they can't change? Not at all. They could very easily change. But let's take a look at some things that, well, why this is a terrible idea. First off, Netflix wants the IPs, not the infrastructure. This isn't a love letter to Warner Brothers, their history. It's a data grab. Netflix wants the franchise, the streaming subscriber base, and the studio production muscle that comes with it, but it doesn't want the actual media company that built the Warner Brothers brand. That means there's no interest in CNN, TNT, TBS, aka the legacy traditional media that comes with it. No interest in news. Live sports, probably not. Maybe. I mean, they've been testing out live sports with like boxing and football and stuff on Netflix, but for the most part, not so much that. They just don't want the old stuff. Like, that's what they don't want. But they want Superman, Batman, Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, Looney Tunes. They want that stuff. That would look beautiful on Netflix. It would look fantastic on there. But why is it significant? It signals the end of balance. Warner Brothers Discovery, for all its chaos under Zaslav, still had diversity of revenue. Now, if Netflix only wants the studio and IP side, that's like raiding the Batcave and leaving Bruce Wayne's mansion burning behind. It's short-term gain with long-term creative collapse. Let's also take a look at the fact that Netflix is the bottom of the barrel for film quality. Look, yes, they can throw out some quality films occasionally. K-Pop Demon Hunters, Glass Onion. And look, K-Pop Demon Hunters isn't even theirs. That's Sony. But let's not act like they don't make shitty movies more often than not. Because they do. They're all about quantity over quality. They throw out umpteen movies a week, a month, a year. For the algorithm. They want people to just tune in and watch the next thing. If the title sounds good, if the synopsis sounds good, who cares if it's quality? Hey, if they got an actor in it that people like, who cares if the movie's any good? They just want as many movies on their streamer as possible so people stay subscribed and keep clicking. That's all they want. They don't care about the quality. Now, imagine they get a hold of the IPs from Warner Brothers Discovery. Imagine they start having control of those IPs, start having control of the filmmakers that come along with Warner Brothers. What do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen? Then you have the studio shrink. And we've seen this before. Think of 20th Century Fox turning into 20th Century Studios when Disney took over. The loss of jobs, the shrinkage, people were fired, laid off. And not only that, we saw a 70% decrease in output of films and projects under 20th Century Studios than what we did under 20th Century Fox. Fewer films, fewer projects than what we have ever seen before. From a company like Warner Brothers, which is one of the most storied studios in all of Hollywood. And you think about that. Now, this isn't just a Netflix issue. This is an issue that if it goes to like any merger happens, this is a good possibility that this happens. But I think this is more dire if it goes to Netflix. And then you see it hurting our pocketbooks. Because those of us who do still pay for Netflix, those of us who still, partake in watching Netflix, there's going to be a price surge. Netflix is already one of the priciest streamers out there. And it goes up every year. Imagine they drop billions of dollars to buy Warner Brothers Discovery properties. Do you think they're not going to pass that price on to you? They absolutely will. They absolutely will. And it's just going to go up and up and up. more than you could even imagine. And it's not going to go up $2 or $3. No, it's going to go up $15, $20, $25. And you're going to be looking at a $50 Netflix subscription, and it's not going to be nearly as good as HBO Max by itself was because of the way they handle everything. It's just, don't even get me started. Talked about the cultural fallout, creative losses, and the algorithms win. You take a look at how they avoid legacy media, their culture defining studio for over a century. From Casablanca to Superman, its DNA is theatrical storytelling. Netflix, on the other hand, isn't a studio. It's a data company that happens to make entertainment. And that difference matters. This isn't just another sale. It's the creative equivalent of turning the Louvre into an AI art form. Bet you like that one, Donovan, don't you? Once that line is crossed, we don't come back from it. If Netflix gets its hand on Warner Brothers, this won't be a new era for entertainment. It'll be the final act of Hollywood streaming-obsessed downfall. Theatrical will shrink, creativity will suffocate, and the DCU, the very thing James Gunn is trying to rebuild from the ground up, will risk being buried under the weight of content quotas and retention charts. Netflix isn't buying a studio to prevent or to protect its legacy. It's buying it to feed the machine. And for fans, filmmakers, and anyone who still believes in the magic of cinema, that's the real tragedy. This is a terrible, terrible thing to really think about. Is it possible? Could this be something that actually happens? Look, they're looking at it. They're looking at the possibility of maybe making a bid. I don't think they're going to take the whole company. I don't think they're going to bid on the whole company. They don't want to take on all that debt. They don't want to take on the legacy media. They don't want to do that. But don't think for one moment, don't think that they will not make a push for all that other stuff, because they will if they have the opportunity to. It's still not the one that I think is going to happen. I still think Comcast is going to be the one that comes out getting Warner Brothers Studios, Max, HBO Max, and the IPs. That's who I think it's still going to be. If the whole studio is not sold to Paramount, Skydance Paramount, I think it's going to be Comcast who comes out with just part of the company. But I think Netflix is going to make a big push. I really do. But it's interesting. It really is. And, you have those section of people who think, this is a little tease for my members only show that's going to go live here in about 10, 15 minutes, not even 15 minutes. There's these people out there who think that selling to Netflix is going to be the right move simply because it's going to reestablish and give them a dead DC universe for two movies. And they're like, oh, this is the best idea. Sell it to Netflix because I want two movies. But they refuse to look at the ramifications on how it will destroy Warner Brothers as a whole, Hollywood as a whole, how it is terrible for the film industry. Because they're not about artistic integrity, not at all. They're simply about their wants, their desires, and that's all they want. That's all they want. All right, so let's see what you guys are saying over here. But before I get to that, let me know your thoughts about all this. Do you think, is Netflix going to get it? Is it going to go to Skydance Paramount? Is it going to be Apple? Is it going to be Amazon? Is it going to be Comcast? Hell, are the Saudis going to get it? Who's going to get Warner Brothers Discovery? And how and when? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Let's see. Real quick here. Trayvon. He loves his Warner Music Group industry getting it. Funny guy, Netflix kills theaters. Oh, but K-pop Demon Hunters is on theaters. I understand, but that's not Netflix's main goal. Correct. Angelica says, if anyone can buy Warner Brothers, I hope they stick to theatrical releases. If all their movies are just streaming, the result will be garbage for sure. Absolutely true. Hunter Iggy, don't forget about the message I sent you on your Instagram. On Instagram? Dude, I don't even check my Instagram. Can I even sign into Instagram? I don't even know if I can. Let's see. Hey, look at that. I'm in Instagram. Am I signed in or? I am. Look at that. Not now. Oh, that's a really long thing, man. Yeah, I see that, but it's just, is it just War Stew just going on about the Snyderverse being possibly coming back? Uh, if it is, it is. Honestly, I don't think Netflix is going to do it. Like bring the Snyderverse back if they get it, but if it does, it does. Like it is. Like I want to see it, but I don't think that should be the main goal of any studio purchasing Warner Brothers. Like that's just stupid. Antonio says Amazon already had their own studio and they have MGM. They don't need more. It should be either Microsoft or Apple, and I lean towards Apple. Well, Microsoft doesn't want it. Apple, they don't want legacy media either. And honestly, they would probably just want IP and maybe HBO Max. But they're also not the type of company that typically buys other like they like to build stuff themselves typically. Don't get me wrong, they do buy other companies. I'm not saying they don't, but take a look at what they've done so far with Apple TV Plus, now Apple TV. They've done a lot of their own building and they're doing a hell of a job with it. And they may want to just keep doing that. They may. Funny guy says, if anything, I see Netflix sticking with guns DCU. Probably true. Probably true. All right. Well, guys, this was a lot of fun. I'm going to jump over to my member-only stream now. So if you're not a member, like I said, just a couple bucks. You can sign up as a member for this member-only stream. It's going to be a lot of fun discussing, well, something a little fun. So if you want to come over there, come on over. I'll be getting ready here probably in the next 5 minutes or so. So come on over there. With all that said, I will be back later this week with a Watchtower. So make sure you join up. I guess it'll be Friday for the Watchtower. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for joining this night. It was a lot of fun, and I will catch you all later.